Alright. I believe we're going. So here I go. I'm going to try this. I don't know if this is going to work. Whatever. Hey, good morning, it is I, your host, Pogo Kiddo, with yet another episode of Redstone, Lapis, Lazuli. I'm still here. It's amazing. Bedrock. There we go. There we go. Now I'm in. Trying to adjust the sound so I'm not blowing out your ears. Yes. Look at this beautiful thing. What is that beautiful thing? That is my revised sugarcane and bamboo farm. Some of that bamboo goes pretty tall. But theoretically, what is supposed to happen is that guy right there is the only one with an observer watching him. He's the only one. So all these other guys can do whatever they want. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's when this guy grows to level 3, it's going to trip that observer, which is going to power this block, which is going to depower that torch, which will repower that torch, which will turn on that redstone and go power these pistons, or power these repeaters, which feeds into this block, which goes 15 blocks down that way, which feeds into some pistons, which will harvest the crops. But instead of like rows and rows and rows of observers, it's just one observer. That's all it takes. So yeah, that's what I'm doing, and it's pretty cool, pretty chill, guys, pretty chill. Yeah, it took me 4 hours 4 hours to do this, because I had to tear down the other two before I could build this one. Like, you see the other ones? No, that's because they're gone. I tore them down to build this one, and then it still was it took a long time because I had to manually make all that mud, all that beautiful mud, the mud that makes it possible. Here it is, the mud. I had to tear it down myself. Not tear it down. I had to make it myself because yeah, I don't have a mangrove swamp that I've found yet. Anyways, hey, welcome back. Right, I've also made a few revisions to the gold farm. I mean, I pared down the kill chamber because yeah, it was unnecessary. Mobs were getting out, and I'm like, how are they getting out? And it's because my nephew comes into this world, and he's like 7 or something, and then he'll fall into the machine. You know, the kill chamber, he'll fall in and he can't get out, so he breaks the machine to get out, and then I have to figure out how to fix it. And the last time, he broke one of these glass bricks that I can barely see up there. He broke those, and then out of those through that little hole came baby zombie piglin to kill me. It was yeah, not fun. But I found it, I fixed it. Then I realized I didn't need all those extra blocks. It's actually nice to remove them because then you can see the machine working. So yeah, so it's pretty nice. I have the secret pass here. You know that. Yeah, I just took out the solid blocks if I could. That's all. And then I made a train line. Not train line. Oh yeah, I made a train line, but in the nether. In the nether. Oh no, he's starting to do the transition from the overworld to the nether. Yep, that's starting to happen. But not very much, right? Just a little bit. Just enough. What? What is all that? What is that? What is that? What is that thing? I can't pick it up. I don't know what that is. Anyways, I made like some train lines to go to the different, well, that one and to the Nether Fortress. Only because I'm lazy and I don't want to. It was annoying to have to manually walk there. Yeah, and it's taken care of. And you can tell my base is not spawn proof yet. Still working on that. Still working on spawn proofing the base, but you know, I barely come here. Okay. Now the Nether's scary. No. Okay, back once again. So yeah, a lot of Minecraft playing. It's looking pretty good. Using the new AMD drivers, they're all right. Pretty. It's a big thing you made. Yeah, you're right. It's pretty big. I should hang out over here. So yeah, let's talk about what's been going on, guys, because there's a lot going on in the world. It makes me, I don't know, kind of both ways about it. Well, the big news, there's two big stories. There's two big things that, well, there's a few things. Okay, so unfortunately, the Supreme Court decided to hear Donald Trump's claim that he is king and that he's above the law. Like, we all know that's not real. We all know that there's nothing in the Constitution that says that the president is king. But Donald Trump made the argument, and his friends in the Supreme Court, he only needs 4 of them. His friends in the Supreme Court decided to give him a break and listen to his argument where he says that he's king. Which is weird, right? Because all these other courts have already agreed that no, he's not king. And nobody like had any dissent about it. They all came to the same conclusion. And this delay stops Donald Trump from going to court, his other court cases. Like, they just stopped it because, you know, you can't go forward if the guy's going to argue he's king. and the Supreme Court wants to entertain that idea. So, like, there's nothing you can do. So all of Donald Trump's federal court cases have been stopped. I don't know about his state level court cases, but at the federal level, they've been stopped. And that's what Donald Trump wanted. He wanted his court cases stopped, and he wanted a big fat delay until after the election. Why did Donald Trump want to wait till after the election? Because Donald Trump knows he cannot win in court. So his best bet for Donald Trump is to become president so that he can dismiss the charges against him once he's president. Like, he'll just tell the DOJ not to follow through on the investigation anymore and to drop the cases. And then boom, he successfully evades consequences for trying to overthrow the government. In fact, if he takes power and is able to do that, he's already overthrown the government. He's already done it. Donald Trump, yeah, because he tried. He's already tried, and he's on trial for it. But the trial has to stop while the Supreme Court figures out if Donald Trump is king. Because that's his argument. Oh, Donald Trump said, it's okay that I tried to overthrow the government. I'm king, and I'm above the law. And the Supreme Court's like, well, we got to think about that. So we already know the Supreme Court's corrupt. And I went off on that like a couple days ago on why the Supreme Court's corrupt. But yeah, it's pretty corrupt. So there's that side, right? That's pretty bad. But at the state level, it's not quite the same thing at the federal level. Donald Trump doesn't control the states like he controls the federal government. So at the state level, and some states are friendly toward Donald Trump, right? Like Georgia is controlled by white supremacists, by Confederates, the Republicans. And so the state level Confederates are looking for ways to stop the DA from prosecuting Donald Trump. They're trying all sorts of things, trying to pass legislation, trying to disqualify the DA. Donald Trump himself is working with the ex-wife of one of the prosecutors in order to try to stop the prosecution. Because, like I said, Donald Trump can't win in a court. He has to somehow try to stop the court from happening. And since it's at the state level, he can't just order the Department of Justice to stop its investigation, because it's at the state level, and he doesn't control the state level. So Donald Trump managed to get, so at the state level, things are moving differently. For example, he's had a number of civil trials, not criminal trials, but civil trials. And civil trials work differently because like people don't go to prison for it; they just have to pay money. And he's lost 2 significant court cases. One court case was with E. Jean Carroll. He was found liable for sexual assault and for defamation. He sexually assaulted Jean Carroll and then lied about it and defamed her. Not only did he lie about it, but he said all sorts of bad things about Jean Carroll in order to wreck her reputation. And he went to court twice, 2 times he went to court, and he lost both times. The first time he had to pay $5 million, and the second time he has to pay $83 million. So that's coming up, right? So he has to pay that. Even if he, so I know a lot of haters will say, "Oh yeah, E. Jean Carroll's never gonna see a cent of that money." That's bullshit, because Donald Trump has 30 days. Well, no. In order to appeal the ruling, he wants to, file an appeal. Before he can appeal, he first has to pay the money. He has to pay all the money. He doesn't have to give it to E. Jean Carroll. He can give it to the court, but the key is that he has to pay it to someone. He can't hold the money while he does this. So there's that one. Another court case in which Donald Trump lost was another New York trial for fraud for his Trump organization. Donald Trump, what he did and what they found was Donald Trump inflated his assets when he was taking bank loans. That way, he could take out, if he used his inflated property as collateral, he could take out bigger loans. But when it came to pay taxes, those same properties that he inflated, he deflated and said they were worthless and that they cost him money. That way, he wouldn't have to pay taxes on his properties. So he got both sides of it. He got the benefit of having inflated value on his properties, and he got a benefit from having a deflated value on his properties. So he got taken to court for that, and they interviewed all the people, and they found out that the head accountant was lying. He perjured himself. He committed perjury, and that Trump organization is liable for fraud. And so they have to do something called disengorgement. They have to remove the ill-gotten gains from the Trump organization. And the judge figured it out to be about $463 million. That's with interest. So on top of the $89 million that he has to pay another $463 million. So that's about $500 million Donald Trump has to come up with in order to do anything. Like Donald Trump says, "Oh, I want to appeal," but in order to appeal, remember, he has to first pay the money. So what's the interesting thing that happened? So Donald Trump wants to appeal the rulings, but first he has to pay the money. So the first thing we're going to see is this statement. Bradley P. Moss reported it. There it is. Trump conceding he doesn't have the cash to cover the judgment after all, and would have to put up assets for sale. So in his court filing, he says irreparable harm inheres to appellants from any forced sale of properties. In the absence of a stay on the terms herein outlined, properties would likely need to be sold to raise capital under exent circumstances, and there would be no way to recover any of the property sold following a successful appeal, and no means to recover the resulting financial losses from the Attorney General. So what Donald Trump is saying is that, hey court, instead of me paying the full amount of money in order to get an appeal, how about I pay you a fraction of the money? Instead of the 480 or 63 million, I'll just pay you only 100 million, and then I'll use one of my properties as collateral. Remember those properties where he inflates to get loans and deflates for taxes? Yeah, he wants to use one of those to cover the rest. Why would he do that? And he's saying, look, we have to do this because if we don't do it, Donald Trump doesn't have enough money, and then he has to sell properties, and then once he sells properties, he can't get those properties back, even if he's successful with his appeal. But we all know he's not going to be successful with his appeal. He's telling us he doesn't have the money. So that's like the big news. Donald Trump doesn't have the money to pay for his court cases already. So on one hand, you have the federal government with the Supreme Court giving Donald Trump a lifeline by agreeing to delay his court cases so Donald Trump can argue that he's king and above the law. But on the other hand, Donald Trump is being stripped of all his wealth. He's got no money. If he's got no money, how are you going to pay for lawyers? So it's a little bit good, a little bit bad. Like, we're gonna see where this goes. He has to pay the Trump org fraud, the 463 million, by I think March 21st. March 21st is the deadline. After March 21st, if he has not paid the full amount to the court, then the Attorney General can start to seize his property. So that's jets, that's buildings, that's real estate, that's houses, that's, his stuff. And then the Attorney General turns around and sells that stuff at an auction. But a lot of that property still has debt attached to it. So before the Attorney General can take any of that money to pay for Donald Trump's fee or fine, the Attorney General first has to satisfy all the outstanding loans on the property. So if you have a car and it's and you paid like $100,000 for it, the car, but you only paid off $50,000 of it, then the Attorney General will seize that car and sell it. Maybe they can only get $75,000 for it. Well, of that $75,000, $50,000 goes to the outstanding debt. That means only $25,000 goes towards paying down the fine that Donald Trump owes. Oh, it's not enough? I guess you have to seize more property. You see where this is going? It's a house of cards that's going to collapse. If you start pulling things away, if you take away one little card, the whole thing will tumble down. So this is what I'm waiting to see what happens. Like, sure, maybe Donald Trump gets to have a Supreme Court case in which he gets to argue that he's king, but by the time he gets there, he's not going to have any money left to pay for any lawyers. So how's he going to do it? Sure, Donald Trump can run for president, but he's got no money. He's not a billionaire. He's got no money. So how's he going to do it if he's got no money? So I think that kind of damage might be enough to wake up the MAGA, the MAGA cult, the people who are enamored with Donald Trump and are totally in a cult with him. They only follow the words of the leader. They can't listen to their own bodies. They can't get their own information. It has to come from the leader or it's not real. So if they see their leader, their awesome leader, being reduced to a regular poor person, will they continue to see him as a leader? He won't be fabulously wealthy anymore. He'll just be a regular criminal. Do you guys want to keep doing it? Now here, let me show you an example of a cultist. Somebody who's in the cult. What did I do? Yeah, right here. So I was in Facebook, like a dumbass. I was on Facebook on the comments, and there was a story about something. I forget what it was. But then I mentioned, the conservatives are trying to overthrow the government. So this guy, Mark Story, comes along from Reno. Mark Story from Reno comes along and says that my hearing is defective, which is weird, right? Because what does my hearing have to do with the fact that January 6th was an attempted coup? The most well-documented coup in the world. My hearing has nothing to do with it, but you see, he's a maggot. He's a cultist. So he's going to attack me. So he's trying to say that conservatives are the only entity keeping the U.S. Constitution relevant. Conservatives, the ones who tried to overthrow the Constitution to get rid of it. He says they're the ones who tried to get rid of it are the only ones keeping it relevant. So he said the Democratic Party was transformed into alt-left terrorists, right? But it was the conservatives, the Republicans, who tried to overthrow the government. Then he says they prefer socialism over our constitutional republic. But wait a minute, it was conservatives who tried to overthrow the government. Don't fall for the crap put out by the mainstream media. Oh, there it is. See, he doesn't believe in mainstream media. He says they are all controlled by the alt-left terrorists. So he believes that mainstream media is left-wing. What? That's like the craziest thing ever. So he doesn't believe mainstream media. He only listens to like Fox or Newsmax or like the extreme right-wing stuff. So I come in and say, I don't know, you sound like a conspiracy theorist. How many people already went to prison for their role in the insurrection? Over 1,000. So either you believe the entire U.S. justice system is corrupt, or you got tricked somewhere along the way, which made you come to a crazy conclusion. Right? Like, the Department of Justice put on trial and arrested over 1,000 people. The Department of Justice, not the Democrats, not Joe Biden, the Department of Justice. So then he says, again, your hearing is defective. So I'm not hearing him, right? He says that I'm not hearing him. He's saying to me, only the alt-left terrorists try to use the legal system against their opponents. So he doesn't know about Hunter Biden. He doesn't know how the Republicans used foreign spies to go after the president. Instead, he's going to say that the Democrats and Joe Biden control the Department of Justice. And that's weird. So I ask him, do you think the Department of Justice is alt-left terrorists? I ask him straight, point blank, do you think the Department of Justice are alt-left terrorists? And what does he do? He dodges. He says it's the current Biden administration and all Democrats. But I thought that's not what I asked. I asked, it's the Department of Justice alt-left terrorists? Because if they're not, if the Department of Justice is not alt-left terrorists, and they still arrested over 1,000 people for the insurrection, maybe the insurrection's a real thing. Right? It's not Joe Biden, it's not the Democrats, it's the Department of Justice who arrested these people. And of course he can't answer it. He doesn't answer. He can't answer his question, do you think the Department of Justice? Because if he answers it, then his entire delusion gets shattered. So he will never answer that question. He just ignores it. He just ignores it. That's an example of someone in the cult, who's in the cult, because he can't face the truth. He has this grand delusion that Biden controls everything and alt-left terrorists, whatever that is, right? Like, there were no alt-left terrorists on January 6th. but that guy is brainwashed. That's an example of someone being brainwashed. He doesn't have the capacity to make distinctions anymore, so he just kind of goes with whatever the leader says. So yeah, but look at the depth to which this brainwashing goes. Listen to this guy. Remember remember how we got here. Donald Trump made a deal with Putin. The deal was Donald Trump would give Ukraine to Putin, Donald Trump would take the US out of NATO, and Donald Trump would remove sanctions off of Russia. In exchange, Vladimir Putin and the Russian government would help Donald Trump take power. That was the deal. That was the deal. So Donald Trump is on Team Putin. And because he's the leader of the cult, all the cultists will follow Donald Trump. All the Republicans follow Donald Trump. So if Donald Trump is with Russia, Republicans are with Russia.
Ukraine, would it give you any pause?
I don't have a problem with Russia. I really don't. I have a problem with Ukraine. They're corrupt. I think that people are just ridiculous that they think that Putin's such this enemy. He isn't doing anything. He just wants back what was his.
So in other words, that woman is totally brainwashed. She's totally brainwashed. Putin is a criminal. He's a murderer. He just murdered his political opponent, Navalny. Putin murders people in foreign countries. Like the UK, the United Kingdom. Russia called the United Kingdom the main bastards, which sucks, right? That should be the United States. We should be the main bastards. But no, it's the UK. Why? Because the UK has been given everything to Ukraine in order for Ukraine to defeat Russia. Why would the UK be so keen for Ukraine to defeat Russia? Well, because Russia sent spies over to the UK to murder some guy that was hiding out here. But collateral damage. They also killed a bunch of two British citizens, who had nothing to do with the Russians. They just got caught in the crossfire and they died. So yeah, so UK is pretty pissed off that Russia is killing people, on its soil, its own citizens on its soil. So that's why the UK has been really, really forthcoming with arms for Ukraine, because Putin's a bad guy. So this woman is a total Nazi. She's absolutely Nazi. She believes the Russian propaganda that Ukraine's Nazi. So she's listening to the Russians and says, "Oh yeah, they have to be telling the truth." Because she's brainwashed. She has no idea, dude. She has no idea. She's crazy. She would sacrifice. So yeah, she's a cultist, right? There's no information is gonna change her mind. You know what's gonna change her mind? Seeing her leader crushed. And the way that's gonna happen is you take away all his money, which is what gives him power. If Donald Trump becomes broke, he's not gonna have money anymore, and then he can't do all the terrible things he does. So will she still be a cultist? Will she still follow Donald Trump if he's broke like the rest of us?
But he invaded Ukraine, killing thousands of people.
That's fine.
Yeah, so she's like, oh yeah, he killed people? That's fine. She's down with murder, right? She's down with murder. She's a terrorist. So she's basically like an enemy of the United States. She's an enemy of the United States. I mean, she's trying to overthrow the Constitution, right? Her and all these people, all those people wearing the sign of the Antichrist on their forehead, they're all trying to overthrow the government and end democracy and install a dictatorship.
Does it concern you at all that Russian aggression could move even beyond Ukraine?
I don't think Putin's a problem.
So he doesn't think it's a problem that Putin worked with Trump to overthrow the election. He doesn't think it's a problem that Putin murders children, innocent children in Ukraine. I mean, that's what they do, right? Russia fires missiles into the cities of Ukraine, and before Ukraine had air defenses, their buildings filled with civilians, just regular ass people like living their lives, would get blown up by Russian missiles and die. And he's like, oh, that's cool. You could do that to Americans, and I'd be fine with it. This guy's a fucking... So he, too, is utterly demoralized. I mean, yeah, he's an enemy of the United States. He's an enemy now. He's an enemy. Look what happened to him. So he used to be in the armed forces, but he betrayed his oath. He's betrayed his oath of service. And he's now working with the enemies of the United States to overthrow our Constitution. Like... This is the truth, right? This is the truth. But you can't tell him that. He won't even understand it. He has no ability to think anymore. The way you get to him is you take down his leader, and that's Donald Trump.
I think Zelensky's the problem.
So, in other words, he's repeating Russian propaganda. He's like, oh yeah, I totally believe Vladimir Putin, is what he's saying. Holy shit. So, I mean, you can't get around it, right? If he says, I don't believe Americans, I believe Vladimir Putin, what are you going to do with a guy like that? Why doesn't he just move to Russia then, if he doesn't believe Americans?
Why do you think Putin's not the problem? He's the one that invaded Ukraine and has killed thousands of people.
Because Putin is trying to save his country.
Oh, so that gives him the right to murder a bunch of people? I'm just trying to save my country. Bah, 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 bah. I'm gonna kill these children because I'm trying to save my country. See, this guy is a traitor. He's a traitor. He's thrown away all American values. Thrown away all American values so he could serve Putin. Right? And there's thousands of people like them. They wear the sign of the mark on their forehead. Millions of people like him. So that's kind of scary, right? They're here to overthrow the government. They're here to overthrow the Constitution. And they'll tell you that's what they're there. They won't say it like that, right? They'll say it differently. But that's essentially what they're trying to do. They've already tried it once. There are people in prison for it. So it's not like I'm making it up. Like, it's a real thing. And he's really trying to overthrow the government and the Constitution and end democracy. He wants to end democracy. So Tristan Snell says, the Supreme Court heard and decided Bush v. Gore in 3 days. That was expediting a case of national importance. This Supreme Court apparently now thinks that expediting means 3 months. Clearest evidence yet that SCOTUS is corrupt and broken. Yeah, dude, they're waiting forever. They gave Donald Trump so much time so that the court case would be after the election. That way they wouldn't have to decide it. They're going to leave it up to, pretty much they're going to leave it up to the people to decide if Donald Trump is king or not. Because if Donald Trump wins the election, he's going to end democracy and make himself dictator. And if he loses the election, he's going to try to overthrow the government. Just like last time. So here's a modified map. It first came from these people down here. Oh, you can't even see it. These guys down there. It came from them. Norman L. Eason, Matthew A. Segelman, and Josh Kolb. How long will Trump's DC immunity appeal take? Analyzing the alternative timelines. Just Security, February 6, 2024. Chart, Jacob Korvax Goodman. Okay, so this is like a timeline of what could happen. So And on February, so Donald Trump appealed to after the appeals court said, no, you're not king, Donald Trump. Donald Trump appealed to the Supreme Court. Now it's funny because that's what Donald Trump said he was going to do. He said he was going to take it all the way to the Supreme Court. Jack Smith went to the Supreme Court ahead of time and said, look, he said he's going to take it to you guys. Why don't you just pick it up here? And that way we can get it done quick. Because the whole point of this is for Donald Trump to delay. He's not trying to come to a conclusion. He wants to delay. And the Supreme Court said, oh, is that Donald Trump wants to delay? I think we'll wait then. So the appeals court heard the case, came back and said, no, you're not king. So Donald Trump then appealed again to the Supreme Court, just like he said he was going to. But he got a whole bunch of time because the Supreme Court refused to hear it until the appeals court heard it. So the appeals court heard it. They agreed Donald Trump is not a king, and so they said, oh yeah, we'll listen to it. Well, you can make your, you can appeal to us. So Donald Trump appealed to us, and then on February 12th is when they were supposed to decide, but they didn't. They waited until like the very end, like the 28th, like one of the last days of the month. Not by February 12th. They waited to February 28th to make a decision. Now there are four things they could have done. They could have denied the appeal. They could have granted a stay without limits. So that means like we're just not going to hear, and then you're not going to hear anything until May 12th. You can grant the stay with a 10-day limit. So they're like, all right, we're gonna wait for 10 days and then see what's up. So then you can either, after that, they'll either petition for cert granted or petition for cert denied, return to district court. Well, it did none of those. They treated it as a cert position. And then, you know what? I think it's actually this one. Actually, no, it's not that one. We went to the longest one. So they treated the stay as a cert petition, and SOTUS set oral arguments for April 22nd. So far in the future. That means the decision is not going to be till like way later. And I think this is even wrong. So I don't know. I don't know when it's going to happen. But the main thing is that Donald Trump wanted a delay, and the Supreme Court gave him exactly what he wanted. So this, like, I keep talking about Donald Trump, but it's really like he's like the avatar of the Confederates. And the Confederates don't believe in democracy, and they don't believe in human rights, and they don't believe in, well, they don't believe women are human, are people. They don't believe women deserve rights. I mean, it's really that bad. It's not hyperbole. It's conservatives don't feel that women are deserving of human rights. So, for example, in Texas, they passed a law banning abortion. Well, something happened in Texas. Like, pregnancies don't always go the way they're supposed to go. And this woman got pregnant, but the fertilized egg didn't make it down to the uterus. Instead, it got caught in the fallopian tube, because it goes from the ovaries through the fallopian tubes into the uterus. The egg, instead of going down in the uterus and implanting into the uterus wall to grow a baby, instead the fertilized egg implanted itself inside the fallopian tube. So there's no room to grow a baby there. there's no room. If you let the baby grow there, both the baby and the mom are gonna die. That's just the way it is. Like, it's just stuff happens, right? It's not always perfect. So this woman's like, great, I need to get an abortion so I don't die. And Texas said, no, No, you don't get an abortion. Because she doesn't control her body. Her body is owned by the state. And so from the Washington Post. Kelsey Norris de la Cruz tried not to cry as the doctor in the emergency room delivered one of the most frightening diagnoses a pregnant woman can receive. The 25-year-old college senior was told she'd likely had an ectopic pregnancy, a highly dangerous condition where the embryo implants outside the uterus. Without immediate treatment, the fallopian tube can rupture and the patient can die. The law that has prohibited abortions. Get out of the rain. Go underground. Deep underground. The law that has prohibited abortions in Texas since Roe v. Wade was overturned now explicitly allows doctors to treat ectopic pregnancies. But when doctors at a Texas Health Arlington Memorial Hospital evaluated Norris de la Cruz last week, they refused to terminate the pregnancy, saying there was some chance the pregnancy was still viable. Norris de la Cruz recalled. Instead, they advised her and her mother to go home and wait, according to the medical records reviewed by the Washington Post. Norris de la Cruz ultimately received emergency surgery about 24 hours later at a different hospital in the area, at which point her ectopic pregnancy had already started to rupture. The OBGYN who performed the procedure said that if Norris de la Cruz had waited much longer, she would have been in extreme danger of losing her life. So, because the Confederates claim control of women's bodies, the doctor wouldn't do the operation because he was afraid that if he did the operation, he would go to prison. So this is the consequence of having white supremacists in government. They take away people's rights to their own bodies, and that flows. And it's not just Texas. In Alabama, the Alabama Supreme Court ruled that fertilized eggs are people. That meant if that doctor, if that OBGYN performed the abortion in Alabama, with the ruptured fallopian tube, that doctor would have broken the law and could have went to prison, because they consider the fertilized egg to be a fully functional human being with all rights. Therefore, they pretty much outlawed a fertilization technique called IVF. Why would they do that? Why would they do that? Because they want to control women's bodies. This is baby Molly. She was born from an embryo that had been frozen for 27 years. You know that fertilized egg that Alabama says is a human being? It was frozen for 27 years. 27 years later, they put the egg in a woman and they gave birth to baby Molly. If we put baby Molly in a freezer for 27 years, baby Molly would die. Why can you freeze an embryo but not a baby? Because an embryo isn't a living human. Right? You can't do that with a human. You can't freeze a human for 27 years and then thaw out the human and be like, okay, let's go. But you can with embryos because they're not fully human. They're not human. They're the seed of a human, but they're not human. Just like an acorn is a seed of an oak tree, but it is not an oak tree. You can keep seeds for thousands of years. You cannot keep a tree for thousands of years. Like, I mean, maybe you could. There's some old trees, but they're actively growing. They're not in a state of suspended animation. Oh, it's still loud. So, but that's not just at the state level. The feds are getting involved too. Senate Republicans blocks bill to protect IVF treatment. Republicans, many of whom have said they support access to the treatment, have argued that it should be left to the states to ensure its legality after an Alabama court ruled that frozen embryos were children. In other words, they lied. Republicans lied. The politicians lied. They said, "Oh yeah, I'll protect IVF. That's fine with me." But then when it comes down to it, when they vote on a bill to protect it, they won't do it. Because they lie. They'll lie to your face. They're liars, dude. Republicans are liars. They lie to your face. Why would Republicans lie to your face? Because the truth would destroy them. And they understand that. Republicans understand the truth would destroy them. So they lie all the time. I mean, why do you think there's a bunch of red hats wearing the mark on their forehead? Why do you think they would be on Team Russia? Because they got lied to by someone they trusted. Here's an example of being lied to by someone you trust. Every election year, every single election year, all of a sudden, the media looks at migrant caravans. It's a meme now. The migrant caravans only come during election years. Why is that? Why is that? Well, because that's what the media focuses on. MSNBC, not so much. Like a little bit, right? A little bit. Fox News, like Fox Business, not so much. It's more business. Fox News lately, it's been all about it. And the Washington Post, all about. So 200, almost 200, all about migrant violence. Discussions of immigrant crime on cable news. So the media is feeding a big fear about the migrant crisis, because they're the ones who decide it's that you're going to hear about it. I talk to my mom all the time, and I debunk a lot of the stuff that she hears. And a lot of the time she's like, well, if that's the case, why don't Democrats report it? Why don't they have like commercials about it or write newspaper stories, articles about it? Why isn't it in the media if this is what's going on? And I tell her it's because the Democrats don't own a newspaper. Democrats don't own the media. They don't control the media. The media is going to report on whatever the media wants to do. It's the media that decides what gets reported, not the Democrats. So if you're not hearing about it, it's not because the Democrats aren't saying it, it's because the media is not reporting it. The media is not left-wing, let me tell you. That guy is on crack when he's saying that the media is, that mainstream media is alt-left. He's on crack. He's on the bad drugs. It's still raining. It's loud, it's loud. Okay. Qu'est-ce que c'est? Oh yeah. Old cold. Yeah. This is a great way of looking at it. So the old way, the way it used to be, is that Democrats and Republicans were united against Russia. This is back during like the 80s and 90s. Like Democrats and Republicans were on the same. They may have fought each other, but they agreed that Russia was a bad guy. Anymore now, The Republicans have joined the Russians against the Democrats, who are, stand for America. So the Republicans have joined the Russians to attack the United States, which is true. That's what's going on. That's what's happening. I mean, they'll tell you themselves that they're on Team Russia against the United States. That they believe Putin and they don't believe Americans. Like, they'll tell you themselves. They're fully aware that they're on Team Russia against the Americans. So, this one real quick. Empty wheel. Things Olivia, a reporter, doesn't know. Russian dealers compromised a Hunter iPad, and prosecutors fucked up an indictment mention related to it. A Russian sex worker was the last person he saw, Hunter Biden, before he replaced the laptop. FBI laptop has anomalies over months. There are around approximately 8 other lost devices. So in other words, the device that Hunter Biden supposedly left at a repair shop filled with incriminating photos was actually stolen by the Russians. Hunter Biden was with a Russian sex worker, and the sex worker was not a sex worker. The Russian sex worker was an agent, and the Russian sex worker stole Hunter Biden's stuff. And then the Russian hackers broke into Hunter Biden's stuff to extract all the good stuff and plant new stuff on there. Then they turned it in. They concocted a story that they turned it into a repair shop guy. But then the actual thing disappeared, and all they have is an image now. An image they got from Russians. So, like, the whole thing is dumb. And then you talk to the Republicans, and all their main sources of information are spies, either Russian spies or Chinese spies, but both of those spies were Israelis. They were Israelis. One was working for Russia and one was working for China, but they were both Israeli. And what were they doing? They were both trying to take down an American president. 2 Israelis tried to take down an American president. What's going on there, guys? What's going on there? Well, here, let's look at, what's going on in Gaza, right? So, Israel has blockaded all of Gaza. So the people inside Gaza are stuck, and they can't eat any, there's no food, no nothing going on, because their entire city has been destroyed by Israel. So they're sending it, so international community is trying to get food to the Palestinian people so they don't starve to death. Because, they don't want them to starve to death. So at one of these food trucks, people were trying to get food so they don't starve to death, and then Israel blew it up as starving people were trying to get food. This is what it looks like, aftermath.
مصاب الآن مصاب خليك ثابت وين الإصابة؟ لا تعال علينا
Imagine you're just trying to get food.
الله يرحمه أشهد لا إله إلا الله جماعة علشان $10 لازم أموت لازم أجيب.
So for $10 worth of flour, he has to almost die for it. And and Israel killed a bunch of kids and women trying to get food so they wouldn't starve to death. Why are they starving to death? Because Israel has blocked off the entire city as they blew it up. So Israel is a bad state. It's a bad country. They're fascists. Listen to them. They'll tell you they're fascists. They're literally fascists. So this fascist country, Israel, is engaging in genocide against the Palestinian people. They're sending their agents, their people, out to take down the American president. Why? So that they can install a friendly leader, Donald Trump. The Israelis. So it's not only the Russians, it's also the Israelis that are attacking the United States. Where's it at? So Yashar Ali says, a plurality of American voters think the Israeli government has gone too far in its war with Hamas, and 60% disapprove of President Biden's handling of the war. This is an 8-point increase since December. It's a story from the Wall Street Journal. U.S. voter sympathy for Palestinians grows as Israel war drags on, Wall Street Journal poll finds. Many Americans think Israel has gone too far. Majority disapprove of Biden's handling of the conflict. So yeah, there was a poll that came out recently. I think it was done by the New York Times that found that Donald Trump was doing better in the polls than Joe Biden. And there was a bunch of these blue anon people coming out and saying, "Oh, look what you're gonna get! You're gonna make us take Donald Trump because you don't like Biden's handling of Gaza." It's like, no, dude, I'm not making us take Donald Trump. Biden is making us take Donald Trump. Why do you think it's up to me, dude? Biden is the one. Biden is the one that's helping the fascists, the Israeli fascists, commit a genocide against them, and the majority of Americans disapprove of it. They don't want it. Why do you think it's us that's the problem? It's Joe Biden's the problem. Joe Biden doubled down on being a Zionist. What's a Zionist? Is a fascist. Remember, a Zionist is a fascist. Here, let's go back to oh man. Damn it. Fuck, it's all fucked up. I didn't clean it up. So that's 218. Yeah, listen.
נכון, אני לא יכולה לומר, אני באמת יכולה לומר לעצמי שיש בי משהו פשיסטי, כאילו.
You're right. You're a fascist, right? Zionists are fascists. So understand, a Zionist is a fascist. So, and then Joe Biden says, yeah, dude, I'm a fascist. Listen to Joe Biden say I'm a fascist. He's a fascist.
I get criticized for having said a long time ago, you need not be a Jew to be a Zionist. I'm a Zionist.
You're a fascist. Oh, you're a fascist. Joe Biden's a fascist. That's all he's saying. He's like, you don't have to be, like, Jewishness has nothing at all to do with Israel. Jewishness has nothing at all to do with Zionism. Right? Just like Nazis have nothing at all to do with Germany. They try to claim it, but they have nothing at all to do with it. That's just them trying to steal legitimacy. They're literally trying to steal legitimacy. The Zionists try to steal legitimacy by saying they represent Jewish people when they have nothing at all to do with Jewishness. The Nazis try to claim they're defending German heritage when they have absolutely nothing at all to do with Germany. The Confederates say, "Oh, we're just," our white supremacists will say, "Oh, we're just trying to defend the Constitution," but they're the ones literally trying to overthrow the Constitution. Like, they have nothing to do with America. They are not at all representative of America or American values. So in this case, Joe Biden is doubling down and saying he's a fascist, because that's what Zionism is. It's fascism.
Where there's no Israel, there's not a Jew in the world to be safe.
So that's crazy. That's crazy. That's the President of the United States telling Jewish people that they are not safe in the United States. In the country he rules, in the country he runs. He's the President of the United States, and he's telling Jewish people, you're not safe here. You're only safe in Israel. Well, that makes sense, right? Because he's a fascist. Joe Biden said, yeah, I'm a fascist, and Jews are only safe in Israel. So he's repeating the Zionist propaganda coming out of Israel. Because it's Zionist propaganda. Remember, Judaism and Zionism are not at all connected. There's nothing there. They're separate things. But Zionism craves legitimacy. It wants to be recognized as a valid worldview. So it will try to associate itself with Judaism. They'll say, oh, we're doing this for Jews. We're Zionists, but we're doing it for all the Jews. Just like the Nazis said, oh yeah, we're Nazis, but we're doing this for the German people. Bullshit! Bullshit! You're doing it for fucking Nazis. That's who you're doing it for. So Zionists want to say they're doing it for the Jewish people? Bullshit! You're doing it for Zionists. And what are Zionists? Fascists, white supremacists, just like Nazis. So if Joe Biden's struggling in the polls, don't try to fucking blame the voter for it. That's like the stupidest thing you can do. The voter has no power over how Joe Biden decides to align himself. The only voice that the voter has is their vote. So you can't criticize a person for how they're going to use their vote. That's like the stupidest thing ever. People using their vote, unless they vote for Donald Trump, they are not responsible for Donald Trump. Only the people who voted for Donald Trump are responsible, or the people who didn't vote, who could have voted and they chose not to. Yeah, they're responsible for Donald Trump as well. So Joe Biden trying to pressure us into voting for him, say by playing good cop, bad cop. That's not going to work. You fundamentally misunderstand your base if you think that's going to work. So Joe Biden's like, oh shit, I'm like taking a big hit for my genocide stance. Maybe I should try to do some damage control for my genocide stance. So what does Joe Biden do? He airdrops some. He's like, USA is going to airdrop stuff. Why does USA have to airdrop it? Because the Israeli citizens are blockading the aid trucks on the ground. All right, fucking, what are you going to do then? He's like, I'm going to airdrop 38,000 meals. 38,000 meals. You know, you realize the population of Gaza is 2.2 million. And you're going to airdrop 38,000 meals. Let's do the math. Kate Willett did the math. So you take 38,000 meals and you divide it by 2.2 million citizens of Gaza. So that means each person of Gaza gets 0.017. A little more than 1.7. Each person in Gaza gets 1.7% of a meal if you perfectly distribute it. In other words, it's a total PR bullshit thing. It's nothing. It's nothing. It might help a few people, but like, it's what would help people is a ceasefire. If you stop the fucking shooting, that would help the Palestinian people, not your fucking aid drop of like a 1% of 1%. Not even 1%. %. Here's 1.7% of one meal. You're welcome. Ah. So if Joe Biden wants to turn it around at the polls, he's not going to do it by scaremongering us with images of Donald Trump doing horrible things. We already know Donald Trump is going to be horrible. Like, we need Joe Biden to not be horrible. And by being a fascist, by aligning yourself with fascists who are trying to overthrow you anyways. Right? It's not like they're it's not like you got anything for your self debasement. You fucking prostrated yourself in front of Netanyahu. You fucking bent over and let him like fuck you in the ass. And what do you get for it, Joe Biden? What'd you get for it? He sends spies after you to take you and your son down. It's not even just you. He's trying to take your family down. Man, you stupid fuck. Joe Biden, what are you doing? Like, I understand that Israel is the last settler colonial project. I get it. I understand it. Oh, what happened over here? Holy shit. Did it burn down? Holy shit, there was like a fire over here. A lightning strike. And like it just burned everything. Wow, it's a big fire. Look at it. It burned a lot. No joke, fire. Wait a minute, wait a minute. Why? I don't know. Maybe that wasn't a fire. Ah! Because fires don't put blocks like that. Ah! I wonder if my nephew was out collecting wood. Yeah, it makes me angry when I see people posting, Democrats posting, like, oh, if you don't vote for Joe Biden, you're gonna get Donald Trump, and that's gonna be even worse. It's like, well, pretty shitty that that Joe Biden would sacrifice the United States for genocide. It's so like killing kids is so important to Joe Biden that he's willing to turn the country over to Donald Trump so that he can continue doing it. That's the way you got to look at it. You don't blame the voter for it. You blame the guy who's got the power, which is Joe Biden. Man, all these trees are all messed up. All these trees are messed up. What happened? Did the world get corrupted? Yeah, look at all these trees are messed up. I mean, maybe he ran around with like flint and tinder and just tried to burn stuff down. But look at that, look at that block in the tree. Like, you can't do that, dude. It like someone had to put a block there. So he was like jumping in the trees. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Yeah. Drives me crazy when people try to blame voters for it, for what Joe Biden does. He doubled down on it. He's like, yeah, I'm a fascist. Well, when someone tells you who they are, believe them. The only reason why Joe Biden is doing badly in the polls is because of Joe Biden. Nobody else can make Joe Biden change his Gaza policy. Only Joe Biden can do that. All right. Yeah, so this is just an aside. So remember that Donald Trump is on trial also in Georgia, the state of Georgia. But the state of Georgia is controlled by Republicans. So right now. So who are Confederates. And Confederates are on Team Russia. So they're trying to stop the DA from going after Donald Trump. They're trying to pass laws that would stop her. They're trying to, Donald Trump got the ex-wife to go after the DA. And check this out. Hackers threatened to release Trump documents from Georgia case if they don't get a ransom by Thursday. Oh shit, hold on. So in other words, some hackers broke into the Georgia police computers and got access to evidence in the file and stole it. And they said, if you don't pay us money, then we're gonna release this evidence and mess up your case against Donald Trump to protect Donald Trump. Like, who does that? It's not regular Americans who are doing that. That's like a state actor. That's like the Russian or Chinese that are doing that. That's not a... And Thursday came and went and nothing happened. So I guess the FBI got them. Because I didn't hear I didn't hear I didn't hear them. Georgia, there we go. Hackers set a ransom deadline of Thursday morning to release Fulton County court documents. They claim the documents include files related to the criminal case against Donald Trump. The hacking group was shut down by law enforcement earlier this month, but they appear to be back up. Well, it appears they were shut down again because Fulton County didn't pay a ransom. And no Donald Trump documents were released on the internet. Yeah, I like it much better. This much better slimmed down. The slim version. Slim. What else we got? So, that's just an example of how the United States is under attack from multiple angles. I don't know, it kind of shocked the hell out of me when I figured out the Israelis were after us. that shocked the hell out of me. So remember that there are two spies that the Israelis sent after Joe and Hunter Biden. Let me pull them up again because it helps to see them. 18. Shit, dude, it messed up my entire desktop, and because I am spatial about my memory, it's all fucked up. 225, there we go. So there's one, right? One guy. Gal Luft. That was the first one. So the Republicans built an entire narrative that Hunter Biden was involved in a crime, based on the lies of the Russians. The Russians told a lie, and the Republicans just tried to use it. And one of the people that was going to testify in a hearing under oath and swear to what he was saying was true, one of them was this guy here, Gal Luft. His name was Gal Luft. And Republicans were talking about him like he had the smoking gun. Republicans loved him. But he never got a chance to testify. Why? Because he got picked up by the FBI for being an unregistered foreign agent of China. So, in other words, he was a spy. He was an Israeli working for China as their spy. And he was going to tell a bunch of lies about Joe and Hunter Biden in order to take them down, so they can be an impeachment to take them down. This Israeli working for China. Then we had Alexander Smirnov. Alexander Smirnov was an Israeli working for the Russians. So he was also a spy, but not a Chinese spy. He was a Russian spy. But he wasn't Russian himself. He's Israeli. That's two Israelis. Two Israeli agents the Republicans were going to use to testify against Joe Biden before they were arrested for being spies and for lying. This guy lied to the FBI. He said a bunch of shit to the FBI. The FBI went to go check it out, found out it was a bunch of bullshit. But the guy kept telling his lies, so they arrested him. So he never got a chance to testify under oath because he was arrested for lying. So Republicans were going to use these Israeli spies to take down an American president that says he's a fascist, who already admitted to being a fascist. Oh man, I don't know. Is Joe Biden really a fascist if Putin and Netanyahu don't like him? That's another good way of thinking about it. Like, how fascist could Joe Biden be if other fascists don't like him? I just think he's doing something stupid, and he's playing dumb. Like, he won't tell us what's up. That's the thing. Like, we're not stupid, Joe Biden. We're adults. Like, you don't understand how much the internet has changed people and society. You don't appreciate it, and it has to do with your age. I hate to say it, but you're not appreciating how smart we are. So instead of playing dumb and looking like an idiot, why don't you just tell the American people what's really going on with Israel? Like, the truth. Tell us what is really up. Why are you consenting to helping with the genocide? Why are you doing it? Tell us the truth. Don't tell me this bullshit like you're a fascist, because other fascists don't like you. Don't try to blame me for Donald Trump taking power because you're unable to be honest with the American people. Just tell us what's up. Why are you supporting a genocide? Are you really a white supremacist? I mean, are you really a white supremacist? If that's the case, then shit, you're gonna lose the election to a real white supremacist. Like, because we've already seen that, right? We already saw like a Democrat try to go for the center right people by being like a bad Republican, like a not very good Republican. Voters will choose the real Republican over the fake Republican every time. So don't try to be like a fake fascist, because that's just going to make you lose. It's like the stupidest thing to say. Like, I can't believe you said it, Joe Biden. I can't believe you said that Jews are not safe in the United States, and you're the president of the United States. I can't believe you said that. Who else are you going to talk shit about? Are you going to tell black Americans that they're not safe in America? Are you going to tell Native Americans that they're not safe in America? Because you know a bunch of Native women keep disappearing, and there's never an investigation to follow up as to why they're disappearing. A whole bunch of Native women just disappear every year. Instead of telling Native women, "Oh, you're not safe in America. You should move to another country." Why don't you make America safe for Native women? Why don't you do that, Mr. fucking President of America? Like, it's your job to make America safe for Jews. It's your job to make America safe for Black Americans. It's your job to make America safe for Native Americans. It's your job, dude. Not some other country. You're not supposed to take care of some other country. You're supposed to take care of our country. I can't believe you would say that. That's like... It's like you don't understand what your job is. And your job is not to facilitate a genocide on the other side of the world. In fact, that's a callback to our dirty, dirty, dirty laundry. You're just repeating old behaviors that we already know are bad. We already know colonialism is bad. We already know genocide is bad. Maybe you can be forgiven the first time because you didn't know any better. Now you know better. So can you be forgiven? You know better. Did you forget? So yeah, Israel is sending agents after Joe Biden, and he still helps them. I don't know. Is Israel like a city-state? Like, should we look at this in terms of Civ 6? What else do I have? Some good news. The Kyiv Independent says, Air Force, Russian activity over Ukraine reduced after recent significant aircraft losses. After losing 13 planes in February, Russian air activity has reduced. Yuri Inat, the Air Force's spokesperson told Ukrainska Pravda on March 3rd. So, yeah, in February, Russia lost a whole bunch of their planes, like 13. They only have I think 3 radar planes, and 2 of them have already been shot down. Pretty good. So soon Ukraine will have F-16s, and that will do a lot to help them defeat the Russian invaders. The Russian invaders, that other brainwashed ass Americans who wear a mark on their forehead They're the one. They're rooting for the Russians. The people who wear a mark on their forehead are rooting for the Russians. Man, that just blows my mind. It just seems incredible. It seems incredible that Republicans would be siding with Russia. Like, I remember the 80s. I remember Rocky 3. That's the one where he goes to Moscow to fight the Russian. I mean, that's in the 80s. Come on, dudes. now you believe them over Americans? Wow. See, nothing I can say will change their mind. Nothing you can show them will change their mind. They are fully invested in Donald Trump. So that's why I think of him as a lich, sort of like a lich, like a magician, right? Like he can maintain the spell because he's got, like, he projects like a he has really strong projection. He can project an illusion of wealth and power. But if you strip him of his illusion of wealth and power, then people are gonna, like, wake up. Though it'll be dispelled. Like, that's why at the end of March, like, yeah. The Ides of March. It's a little bit different nowadays. It's been a few years. Maybe our clock is not quite on sync anymore. But the Ides of March. Donald Trump. So, sure, maybe Donald Trump can make the argument that he's king, but he's going to have to do it himself in person because he won't have any money for lawyers by the time we get there. And maybe that will be the most humiliating, degrading thing of them all, where everyone gets to see naked Donald Trump. My eyes. And why do I care? Because this machine, this ship, the spaceship, the United States, the spaceship, moving through space and time, like, is not controlled by a king. All the other spaceships before, all the other countries and stuff, all had a king, had a monarch, where the people had no say in it, and power was absolute. And yeah, there's no human rights. And a bunch of white guys said, hey, no, we don't want to do that anymore. We're going to do our own thing. And they made their own spaceship. But to make their spaceship, to get freedom, right? So that they're not under the power of the kings. They're free. But to do it, they had to engage in slavery and genocide. And they only did it for themselves. They didn't do it for everyone else. They just did it for themselves. And the way they did it was through slavery and genocide. So, in order to atone for using slavery and genocide to create to break free of the kings, in order to atone, America must extend that freedom the freedom to all the people, not just the white men. All the people, because of how you got it. Because you didn't just get it yourself. You got it through the exploitation of other people. By denying freedom to other people, you got it for yourself. Well, then your freedom's dirty. So to atone for it, to clean it, you have to give it to everyone. And this machine, the United States, this spaceship, is a pretty nice machine. It's a pretty good machine. It's a pretty good country. The symbol is powerful. When you go out in the world, it means something. It says something. It makes things happen. It's powerful. Like we're flying in the spaceship, and like we're slow, and because we're democracy, we're slowly taking control of it from the white supremacists, and they know it. That's why they had to try to overthrow democracy, because if they kept doing democracy, they're going to lose control. And who controls them? Who controls the spaceship if white supremacists don't control the spaceship? We do. The people, multiracial democracy people. That's who controls the spaceship. It can be potentially awesome, is what I'm telling you. Why should we destroy it? We should take control of it and then use it to spread freedom everywhere. And not through violence, right? Because we already know that's not the way you do it. When you spread freedom with violence, then it doesn't work. You want people to willingly join freedom. You don't spread freedom through the sword. You let them willingly join. They'll want to join. You don't have to do anything except be awesome, and they'll want to join you. And yeah, the United States is great. We're a multiracial democracy. That's never existed. And it doesn't really truly exist even now, even in this present moment. But it's going to. It's going to. Bit by bit by bit, the demographics of the United States is moving to a majority-minority state. The most powerful nation in the world, majority-minority state, ruled by democracy. That's amazing. That's amazing. That's incredible. When thousands of years before, it was nothing but rule of kings and bloodshed, endless bloodshed and violence. Like, the reason why they're trying to make us give up is because it's so good. They want you to get cynical. They want you to like say it's irreparably broken and you can never fix it, but you can fix it. We can fix it. And we can make it better. So yeah, you can't give up. This cartoon. Two-thirds of eligible voters don't vote. So the majority of people, the majority of eligible voters didn't vote at the time of this cartoon, which was 11/04/14. So imagine if they actually participated in democracy. Right? It would change everything. You want to make it democracy as accessible and as easy as possible. You want people to participate. You want them to participate. You want them in. You want them in. You don't want the decision just to be made by a few people. So an easy way of telling if a person's a Confederate or not is to ask them about democracy. Do you want more people to vote in democracy? And a Confederate will say no. They want few. Confederates don't want any democracy. That's why they try to overthrow it. But again, I can talk until I'm blue in the face. It's never going to change the mind of a Confederate. They're not going to, of an adherent to of Donald Trump. They're not going to change their mind until Donald Trump is disrobed, and made naked, paraded naked. And maybe the Supreme Court is the way to make him do it. When he's got no money and he's got to make his arguments himself to be recorded for all time, maybe then they'll see. He won't have fancy people talking for him. He'll have to talk himself and explain himself. That'd be great. Yeah, those Americans, fully demoralized. So demoralized that they're literally rooting for Putin and literally rooting for Russia to kill innocent people. That's information warfare for you. It's a real thing. Information warfare is real, whether you want to believe it or not. So rather than be subject to it, instead learn about it so you can defend yourself, your family, and your country. Alrighty then. New AMD driver. It's pretty nice. High quality. No joke. And yeah, this is pretty good. I like this. It's pretty silent. I don't ever hear it. I would normally hear it like go off all the time. But because I've changed it now. There's only one trigger. Instead of 30, 90, is it really 450? It'd be 450? I don't know. Well, okay, so each one is 30. Yeah, there's 5. No, it's 150. Yeah, instead of 150 triggers, there's only one. Right here. So it's a lot quieter. And how's it working? It's alright. It's alright. I can probably do more layers. Or if I wanted to, yeah, look at it, dude. If I wanted to really be serious, I'd just put another trigger in, which would be easy. All I do is I replace that block right there with an observer. And it feeds right into the system again. Hey, I might do that anyways. I mean, this is a bad angle. I can't see, but yeah, just replace that with an observer. It'll just shoot it. Oh, but then it will only go. It will only go up. Oh, that's the problem. Well, that's all right. I don't care. That means the top ones are gonna get it all the time. Oh, there it goes. It went off. Yeah, but it could be more efficient if it went off more regularly. And there it comes, all trickling in. See, it works. It works. It works. It works okay. Well, let me see how much it gets. So I'm experimenting with leaving a guy, like, what happens if the villagers aren't locked in their boxes? So traditional farms lock these guys in their cubes forever. So and so and I can understand why, right? If you want to trade, you want to be able to go to the trade and get the trade you want. But I found out if you don't lock them in, if you let them out, they'll eventually come back. It's exactly here. So I was thinking, oh, that's the intended behavior, right? You make them a house, you make them like a shop where they work at, and then they go to their job and they work there. If you want to go buy something, go during business hours. Like literally, that's what they do. They're teaching you to respect business hours in Minecraft. They're like, respect business hours, and then you don't have to label the person like with the job. All you do is you label the workstation with the item that you want. That way you just come during business hours to buy what you want. Hey, right? That's what they're trying to get us to do. To respect business hours. That's funny. Please respect business hours. Anyways, all right. Yeah, we've got to keep trying to hold on and not to give in to cynicism and despair. Because what we got is pretty good. Anyways, alright. Until next time. Peace. Pogo Kiddo out. Stop.